Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Charlie Fibrosis, and I want to do a very quick update video on something that I was kind of going over and just kind of recently acquired some other stuff too that I wanted to share. So if you guys remember last time you saw this old garage here, this is where I parked some of the more sentimental vehicles that I have in diecast form and everything. But I kind of wanted to share upon a little bit more with that and share some of the small upgrades as well as some of the new cars that I picked up recently that are kind of the final tail end of my collection. So as you guys can see in the foreground, we have Dave Blaney's number 10 machine, which is what I had last time. But you'll see another car right behind it, and that is the number 11 Steve Kinzer sprint car. Now, I kind of made a mistake here in that I didn't actually realize that this was a 150 scaled sprint car. I didn't even know that such a scale even existed. But the winged sprint car Dave Blaney is a 164, and I was trying to find a more modern 164 and accidentally purchased a 150th scaled diecast of Steve Kinzer's sprint car. But to be honest, considering it's the Bad Boy Buggies scheme, which I think actually looks kind of cool, and it's his final scheme, I'm willing to let this pass. And it can still mostly fit into a good majority of scenes and whatever I wish. Yeah, it's a little big, but it's not the end of the world. It can still go into the garage pretty easily for the most part, which we'll show off in a little bit. So anyway, let's go ahead and move Dave Blaney and put him to the side, and we'll talk about this Steve Kinzer car. Now, I think, personally, pretty darn cool. We're gonna see if we can get some light. Yeah, that'll do. So there we go. We got the king, my favorite sprint car driver ever, Mr. Steve Kinzer. So, well, the interesting thing about this particular diecast is it is stanced interestingly. Like, the way that this is designed is most sprint cars, from what I can tell, no, actually, it's the case too on the 164s. They do a pretty accurate job of this. The rear wheel on the passenger side is actually bigger than the what would be the driver's side rear wheel tire, and that's because it's tilted at an angle. The idea is to get it to slide and be able to have the back end tire back here push more in the turn to get it around, and I just think that's kind of cool. Now, the benefit of having this as a slightly larger scale is we get a few more details that you typically wouldn't see. So we got Steve Kinzer's name on the front of the top wing. Got the Bad Boy Buggies logo. If you flip the sprint car around, you can see a small STP logo there. You can see MVT logo. I think that's like Vermont, Minnesota, Vermont, something of that nature. I can't exactly tell. We've got all the contingencies on the upper part of the wing and on the lower part of the wing and everything. It just looks really good. I kind of wish that this was secured more with like metal or so instead of plastic, because it does flex a little bit. But yeah, like overall for my small accident, turned out actually pretty darn good. So there we go. We got a Steve Kinzer sprint car, something I have been looking for so many years. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I had that Dave Blaney sprint car when I tried to go to Lawrenceburg Speedway in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, I was hunting for Steve Kinzer stuff and I could not get any. They didn't have any Steve Kinzer stuff for sale, which disappointed me immensely. So, there we go. We'll go ahead and move the King of the Outlaws out to the side, and we will showcase other items now. Apologies for the focal issues. Alright, so this is kind of interesting. So I saw this on sale on eBay, And I'll show off kind of the main reason why I got this, but let's actually show you another car so we can have a little bit of understanding as to why I have that trailer. And that is this. So this is Dan Gurney's 1970 Trans Am Plymouth Barracuda. Dan Gurney is by far one of my favorite drivers in racing, in historic racing. I think the talent that he possessed was bar none. Like, I wish the man would sometimes get more credit than what the racing world kind of gives him, or at least the general public at least. I know that Dan was very, very much beloved by the racing community, and his passing back in 2018 was a real heartbreaker, especially for me, because I've learned more and more about the Gurneys and everything like that, but this is essentially Dan's last ride. He retired after the 1970 season. He had teammate Swede Savage, who would sadly pass at Indianapolis maybe same year or a few years later. I think in an IndyCar accident. I just thought it was really, really cool. So when I was hunting around for that, I saw this trailer here for his Mustang. And I never knew that that was the case. And I'll actually go ahead and pull the Ford team trailer out to kind of show you the similarities and the differences, at least. So we'll go ahead and shut that off. So we have the Ford team Mustang in the foreground, which I'm sure you guys do remember. But if I lift up here and go ahead and push Dan's Mustang out, and I'll go ahead and load her up onto the back here. There you go. You essentially have more or less the predecessor to this. And personally, I think that if Dan was having a big organization and everything like that, and he needed a secondary car, that would probably be a secondary right there, but that's the primary. And personally, I like the shade of blue a little bit more. I really, really do enjoy what Greenlight and a bunch of other companies have done, at least when it comes to making historic vehicles. But there's a part of me that likes to pick up little bits and pieces from actual historical vehicles. And so thus we have Dan Gurney's Ford Mustang from Trans Am, I believe. I don't actually know what year this is. Oh, it's a 1969 Ford Mustang. So Dan must have been driving, Dan or someone in Dan's group must have been driving the 1969 Ford, and then he switched over to the Barracuda the next season. Speaking of which, I mentioned the Barracuda. We saw a Barracuda. We are going to see a Barracuda unboxed, though. And here we go. We got a big old chunky number 48 Plymouth Barracuda. And like I said, this would essentially be Dan's last car as a driver, at least. And I had to get one to have as a display model, and then I wanted to have one in the garage setup, which we'll show off more of that in a little bit. So now, whenever Dan's got to go and go run a race, now he's got a choice of the Ford Mustang, probably a little bit of a lighter pony car, but then he's also got the Barracuda to run on some of the harder road courses and so. And then, as I mentioned, we do have the Ford team truck. We're all covered. We're really, really good with historic racing. So, in all of that, I went ahead and cut out the original placard that went with that car, and then put Dan Gurney's name on there. So Dan has a spot to park his racing vehicles. And then we have a trailer ready to distribute them whenever they're ready to go. Alright, next up, well, I'm going to go ahead and show you the inside area, and we'll get to see some of that. Alright, so here we go. We're going to take a look at the top here real quick, and just little pieces that I kind of have added on. So I saw something kind of interesting, and this is kind of where I'll show a little bit. So these Mopar stickers up here, I thought kind of fit pretty well with the Barracuda. I believe that Plymouth was a Mopar based company, if I remember right. I may be wrong, and if I am, apologies to car historians everywhere. But all the same, I thought they were kind of cool. But what I came across was these mini die-cast pieces. So over in this corner over here, we have a jack, which we can be able to lift a car up or so. We have an oil pump or a gasoline pump back here that we can drag on out. We have over here a crawler for any figurines that I plan on getting actually here fairly soon. There we go, a little bit closer look. A toolbox over there, so we can be able to change out any parts or whatnot. And then if we go ahead and turn the diorama a little bit, I think we've got a power box or a battery jumper, should we need it. So kind of with all that, and then the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Thing came from an IndyCar card, however long ago, for his IndyCar that he drove in iRacing. That was right. So kind of making a custom garage of my own, so we can be able to, in terms of the cars that are in here, we've got ourselves a racing version, track version of the Mazda Miata, by far my favorite car for production means. We have, and it'll probably be changed out, a number 78. Yeah, 78. I think it's a drift car, Ford Mustang. So there's that. We have my favorite, as I mentioned before, from Chrysler, the Dodge Orca Viper that Olivier Beretta drove to Le Mans victory, and still one of my favorite paint schemes that have ever been produced. And then we've got, as mentioned earlier, the Gurney Mustang and the Gurney Cuda. So put the crawler back up on the bench, and the eventual hope is, so kind of the idea is that I think if Dan Gurney would have a little shop or something like that, he'd have his historic cars. Technically, the Dan Gurney All-American Racers Museum does exist, which showcases some of his old racing cars and everything. But Dan would probably have, you know, a couple of cars here or there to commemorate his past as a driver and everything like that. And then maybe if I do find something in the future where it is a diecast of like 1990s, Trans Am car or something like that. You know, something that the All-American Racers built in success and everything like that. Maybe have that be the group, maybe have that be what they're working on. I do want to show off one last thing real quick, so as I try to close the door on the garage, just stick a little bit. So the signs can always be taken down. There's one last piece that I want to show you. I actually did a live stream on this a few weeks ago, roughly, but I do want to show it off because it took a lot of time. I may make a third one just to finish it out because I do have all the material, almost all the materials I need, but I do want to share this with you guys real quick. Alright, this is the last thing that I did want to show off real quick, and that is the following. So very, very quick backstory or so. So back in the beginnings of the month, / late December, I placed an order with the All American Racers group, which is Dan's garage / museum out in California, and ordered a couple of patches. The main one that you'll see, I only ordered 2 of these, but they also include a whole bunch of other stuff too, which I'll have to show off at some day in the future. But I ordered just 2 of these All-American Racers patches. Now they managed to send me some more stuff, which we'll see on the second item here. You'll see most of it. But I went ahead and I took the time and I made myself a hat. I think I spent about maybe 6 hours working on hand stitching this and fabric gluing this to the base of the hat. Simple as it gets. I personally prefer Velcro enclosures on hats with how my hair grows and everything like that. I like to be able to adjust it on the fly and be able to make those changes if I need to. So, there's that. But I made a very, very simple All-American Racers hat. The next hat that I want to show off, and this is where a lot of the other stuff came in. So like I said, I ordered 2 patches. They sent me a lot of other items too, and you will see it here. They sent me a giant patch of the Eagle car that Dan drove in the 1967 F1 season and everything. And I will say that I kind of went a little robust with the stitch work there, but I think it works out pretty well. If I had to do it all the same, I would probably get a much thinner string thread to stitch it in and everything like that. But all in all, I mean, it holds on to there pretty well. And the good news is I have another one of these patches. They sent me like 3 All-American patches, and they sent me 3 Eagle patches. So this is essentially prototype 1 of the Eagle. I could always go back and try again and make it a little less forceful, I guess, on the stitching there. But it turned out really good. Now they included other items, and this stuff I didn't even ask for. They just included it. They gave me a Dan Gurney pin for his birth year and his death year, which I think is really, really cool. Put it up on the top there in one of the hood vents, hat vents. Right. We got a pin of him winning the 1967, I believe. It's the 50th anniversary pin of him winning Le Mans. And then behind that, we have another All-American Racers patch that I went ahead and sewed onto there. And all in all, I think it looks really, really good. So kind of the idea is that this is the car and this is the team, whereas the other hat is all about the team. So there's that. We flip it to the back, and we have a humorous pin, Dan Gurney for president, running reference, and I think Track and Car or something like that from one of the publications, was that a lot of people wanted Dan Gurney to run for president, but at the time he was too young, and I don't think he ever really expressed much interest in it. So there's that. And then we flip around to this side. I think if I had to do this hat again slightly, the only thing I'd want to do is I would have liked to find like a circular patch to sew into here and then stitch in a 36, but this will do just nicely. It is the 50th anniversary of his sole win in the Gurney Westlake Eagle from when he won at Spa-Francorchamps in the 1967 Formula One season. So the fact that they included that one, and it's not common to find anymore, is pretty darn nice. So once again, we turn it around, we got the front of it, and there is the eagle themed hat for Dan Gurney. So yeah, got a couple of hats made. Looking to make one more with the patches that I have left. Maybe order another. Maybe make one that doesn't look as thick as this one does, but all in all, looks really, really good. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Keep the racing spirit on. Thanks for watching. See you later.